Welcome back to K&E Theater Group's local spotlight series. I'm really excited about today's interview, but first, let's talk. First, if you are inclined to give a donation to K&E Theater Group to help us in the future, in the comments section on Facebook, there is a PayPal link. If you're not watching on Facebook, you're on IGTV, or you're on our YouTube channel, or maybe you're just like, hey, I want to do a donation later. Awesome. You can go to our website, which is ketg.org, and click on Support KETG, where there is a donate button. Well, I'm so excited for this interview, and I cannot wait to introduce you all to Gene Choquette. Hi, Gene.
Hello, Eddie.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You just made a grand entrance.
Of course. Nothing less. Nothing less.
You're a thespian. That's what we do. Well, I'm excited to start this interview because I think you are so fascinating and so talented.
Well,
so I think it's going to be really exciting to get to know more about you.
Sure.
So the first question that I want to ask, and it's kind of the question I'm starting all of these interviews with, is tell us your theatrical timeline. So where you started, how you got into this, all the way to where you are right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because, there's different stories, but there's so many similar stories too that I hear, over the years. So for me, like many, it's like, I think my very first memory of performing, I think I was about 3 years old. So they tell me, but I remember this. And I got a copy of the original Meet the Beatles, which was the first album the Beatles produced. It was probably 1964-ish.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I had a record player as a kid, and I played and I memorized every song, and I performed the songs. I lip synced them to whatever audience was available, which is normally, my mother or my aunt or somebody, a neighbor, maybe, or just to myself. I imagined, so that was the first time I remember doing that and having fun doing it, and but then like other kids, elementary school, you do the little plays, and that carried on through junior high school. And I got a lead role in I think the 7th grade in a play called Santa's Neurosis. I was a psychiatrist, and
okay.
And I remember the wallpaper on the wall peeling off in the middle of one of the scenes, and it was just like one of the great memories. It's amazing how much you remember too. It's like I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I can remember Santa's Neurosis in the 7th grade.
I can't remember today, so I get
it. High school was cool, but I think the definitive moment. There were 2 definitive moments. So one was I saw the original tour of Jesus Christ Superstar, circa 1972, maybe. It was the pre-Broadway tour. The album came out. They decided to tour the show and then take that capital and mount it on Broadway because they had no money. And
was that Ted Neely?
What's that?
Was that Ted Neely?
That was not Ted Neely yet. No, he kind of started with the movie, right?
Oh, okay.
And kind of did it for the rest of his life after that. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. It was not Ian Gillan from the album, and
okay.
it was like an unknown guy to us. But they actually played, believe it or not, they played in the field at Holyoke High School.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 30,000 people showed up. It was the largest crowd in the history of Holyoke. They had traffic nightmares that have never been matched since that time. And but my mom took me because she was a huge Andrew Lloyd Webber fan, and I just remember the guy next to me, he put me on his shoulders when everybody stood so I could see. I was little, I was probably like 9 or 10 years old, and I just loved it. I memorized every word of that album too. And I'm thinking about mounting a one-man show of that, a one-man production of that. But,
just the ranges would be insane.
Sorry, I digress. We have 60 minutes, right? No, just kidding. So that was one of the things, and high school, I was working backstage on The Music Man. It was my first musical ever. I didn't have a part. I was just moving pianos and moving scenery and stuff. And I just remember being on stage a few times. We were in costume as set guys, and just thinking, this is so cool. I'd like to do more of this. I'd like to feel more of this that I'm feeling now, pushing this piano, smiling across the stage. So that was really another thing. So I ended up, I did not originally major in theater because I didn't think it was, the thing to do. But about 3/4 of the way through my first year of college, I said, I have to stop. And I did. I dropped out of school and totally turned my life around, and then took a year off and then went back to school for theater. Yeah.
That's amazing. Where did you go to school for theater?
I went to NYU Tisch.
Nice. Very
Great
nice.
school. Yeah, it was.
So,
Mhm.
oh, no, I was going to say, so you went to NYU,
Yeah.
and then explain that what happened where you got back here and you started doing theater here.
Sure. I mean, in a nutshell, so NYU was a great school. It was the early 80s, a lot of great actors in New York in the early 80s. And it was also kind of like the outbreak of AIDS. And it was a very interesting time to be in the theater world in New York. And, but, I studied hard and had a lot of opportunities through NYU, and was doing the thing, lived in Brooklyn, and I got married because I also wanted to be a dad. That was also on my bucket list. I mean, I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to be a husband and a family guy. I'm a family guy anyway. But unfortunately, it's tough to be a dad with kids and also be starting a theater career. So it was a struggle, but it was the best of times, and I consistently worked, and it was never really made money at it, but it was quite an experience. I worked with some very cool people. And then after the birth of our third child, my wife, my now ex-wife, she got ill, and we had to leave New York. We had to come back to New England, back to Mass, where both of our families, we both grew up in Western Mass, and be with family. But I always thought it was going to be a temporary thing. She'd get better. We'd just go back to New York, resume our life. Unfortunately, sometimes life throws a curveball, and it just never happened. So that's pretty much how I got back to here. I took a 10-year hiatus when I came back.
Wow.
Yeah. So 96.
Imagine you not doing theater.
It was even longer. It was like 1996. I came back. I left New York in 96. It was very emotional departure. It was
it always
was
is.
Tough. It was because I had been at it for 10 years at that point, and just starting to make those breaks and meet the right people and have some cool gigs. And so we came back, and but yeah, so I really had to like mentally just say I have a new life now and new responsibilities, or same responsibilities but heightened responsibilities. And so I had no artistic outlet for 10, 11, almost 12 years. Wow. Nothing. I didn't paint, I didn't knit, I didn't do any of the things that I do. And
sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Well, and then my wife Susan now, she just said, hey, there's a lot of great groups out there. You need to go back and do some stuff. And I was like, no. It's like, well, maybe. And that was it. I haven't stopped.
Well, I'm glad
I think that was 2010, I want to say. That might be wrong. 2010, maybe, yeah.
Well, I'm glad that she said that, because
me too.
Just such a joy on stage. And for those of you who don't know, I was lucky enough to work with Gene in our last production, Assassins.
Whew.
And breaking news,
ass, man. Didn't that kick ass? That show.
It was so good. But breaking news, Gene will be joining us for our 2021 musical Cabaret as Air Schultz, and I am just ecstatic about that. So moving on, now you came back in 2010, and you started doing theater again.
Yes.
So what's your favorite role, and why?
Oh man, that's a good question. I've been very blessed and very fortunate to do a variety of things in straight theater and straight plays and musicals. Believe it or not, I only started doing musicals when I came back, only because they always need men, right? So
yes.
But I was a straight actor in New York, legitimate actor, Edward, in New York.
Legitimate.
Sorry, but that's what it is.
That is what they call it.
And isn't that crazy?
It is.
But so my favorite role, I think, I thought long and hard, and I can go either way. And this might be a multi-part answer, but first and foremost, the show that still resonates with me is I played Otto Frank in the Diary of Anne Frank at Unity House a couple of years ago with Karina Savoy as Anne Frank. And just, it was one of those shows, kind of like Assassins, you know, every once in a while you get the right script and the right director and the right venue and the right cast at the right time, and all the stars align, and it was just magical. And I really felt I was so connected to that script and that story and that character, because he lived, you know, he was the only survivor. So there was a lot of footage of him. There was a lot of video of him. So I was able to see him. He died in like the 80s. So he's, you know, this is a relatively recent thing. And so to be able to watch his mannerisms and kind of listen to how he talked, and not that I was trying to, you know, kind of duplicate a historical figure. I always try to bring something of myself in, but it was just cool to see that, and it's a rare privilege to be able to see the character that you're playing, you know, kind of in real life, you know. So,
course,
but
yeah.
it was just the words were so moving. The final monologue of that play, where he tells the fate of all the people, and it's this, you know, lengthy multi-page monologue, was just, I could just do that over. It was exhausting. It was emotionally exhausting, physically exhausting, because it's at the end of the play, and I was in this wool suit the whole damn play, you know, and it's like, you know, 100 degrees. But it was something that I'll never forget. And there's very few things that I say to myself, like, I could just keep doing this. I could just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And that was one of them.
And who directed that?
That was directed by my dear friend Janine Corman.
The lovely Janine Corman.
Yeah, she's a great director. She's a great colleague. Really, yeah, I can't wait to work with her again.
She's wonderful.
Yeah,
she's wonderful. So, moving past your favorite role, I thought this would be a really interesting question. Now, your daughter is also an actress.
She is.
So how is it being a dad of an aspiring actress? And on top of that, how do you fuel that fire in her?
Oh my goodness. I mean, funny story. So the phone, you know, used to ring for me. And the first time the phone rang, and it's like, oh, hi. Yeah. I was about to say, like, I whatever role, you know, it's like I decided I didn't want to work with this group, and so I was trying to figure out a way to just kindly say, oh, thanks, but I'm gonna pass on this project, but thank you so much, you know. So, and it was like, hi, yeah, is Sammy there? It's like, oh yeah, Sammy. So just because the phone rings now, it doesn't necessarily mean she's getting more calls than I am at the moment. So, it's amazing. You know, all of my kids actually have been performers in some way or another. I've got 5 children.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yes. And so my daughter, you know, they've all been acting. I have one daughter who was a dancer for years and a dance teacher. My son is a trumpet player. My daughter was a piccolo and flute player. And dabbled in a little acting in elementary school, which was cute. So, but Sammy is the first child that really has kind of shown a real interest to the point where she may want to pursue it. You know, she definitely wants to go to school in New York and be in New York. There's something about the New York vibe that really talks to her. So that's on her bucket list to get down there. But I told her, I said, you know, first of all, it's very hard to direct her. I've tried a few times, and it's really hard to direct your own child because they think you're picking on them. And I say, I'm treating you like everybody else, you know, so, you know, suck it up and just do exactly what I tell you, and we'll be very fine.
Well, I mean, first of all, I had no idea that you had such an artistic family. Like, that's insane that everybody is involved.
DNA, man, something in the DNA.
That's crazy. I love that so much. So piggybacking off of all of that, this is a 2-part question. What is the best advice that you've been given about the business? So like when you were in New York and what someone told you about the business that really struck you, but also knowing your daughter wants to pursue this, what is the best advice you can give to someone about the business?
Yeah, that's a multi-part answer. And I say this, I mean, I've, over the last few years, I've helped some high school kids with their college monologue process, the college audition process, because there was nobody doing that in my time, man. I just had to figure it out. And, and I did a number of shows with younger people that were kind of making that transition. And I said, you know, they said, hey, would you help me out with my monologue or selecting my monologues or my song or whatever? So I said, sure. So I actually started doing that for a number of people. And in that, with that in mind, what was the question? That was related to the question, but now I have to shut up.
You were on the right track.
Thanks.
What's the best advice anyone has given to you about the business?
Thank you.
And then what's the best advice you can give someone about the business?
Got it. Absolutely. So the best advice, three things. Three people said things that always stuck with me. And one was George Firth, who I met in New York. And he was just like, as a young actor, you really have one objective. If you want to make it in the business, you've got to surround yourself with actors and with theater people and people who are just as passionate about this as you are. Don't waste your time with anybody that's not. Don't waste your time with naysayers or anybody. Just find people who are better than you to work with, so you can continually learn. Which leads to the second part, which is always continually learn. Always be in class. All the professional actors and dancers and singers that I know are always training. No matter how good or famous they are, they're always taking classes.
Absolutely.
So do that as best you can, continue to train. The big three: voice, acting, and movement. And the third thing was, Mr. Sondheim said to me, and I think he's said this many times, but it happened to be in a thing where I was speaking with him, and he said, it's much better to have a good actor who can sing a little bit than to have a great singer who can act a little bit. Completely. And I was just like, that kept me going for 10 years, because if he's saying that,
and I mean,
I really started working really hard on my acting skills and the ability to tell a story,
I mean, he is the king of strong actors who can sing.
Right.
You have actor first.
Yeah.
That's first of all, the fact that you talked to Stephen Sondheim, I'm like, oh.
Again, one of those things where Steve Sondheim, George Firth, Harold Prince, a lot of connections through some amazing people at NYU.
That's so incredible.
Yeah.
And what would be the best advice you would give someone about the business? Like if you had Sammy in front of you and she's like, I'm going to New York, I'm ready to take on the world. Mm-hmm. What would be the advice that you gave her?
The big two, again, multi-part, the big two. First, be nice. So much of what we do, even in a market that's so oversaturated with talent, like mm-hmm. New York City, Chicago, LA, London, it's still a relatively small world, as you know. I'm sure you know this, Eddie, because you were there. So you go to the same casting agents over and over again, and after a while, they start to see you. So be nice, be truthful, don't show up for things that you're not right for. It's not community theater where sometimes you can do a stretch with age or gender or whatever. Make sure don't waste their time, but be nice, be respectful to each other, to the other actors, because directors want to work with nice people, talented people, but nice people. Yeah. So number one, be nice. Number two, persevere. I would say that, and I said that to all the kids who I worked with. Persevere. So many actors stop just shy of really breaking into something because it's hard, as you know. It's hard. Absolutely. And you have to be, well, how long do you have to do this for? I'm like, you have to be ready to work for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at a minimum, before you finally get on somebody's agenda. And finally, someone says, we've seen this guy 17 times in the past 10 years, and he's not been right for anything we've seen him for, but he is for this. Bring him in, so, and yet a week before, you're moving to Connecticut or whatever, because you just have to, you're tired, you're tired of hitting that pavement. So persevere.
That is the truth. That is the truth, because it just takes that one chance. One magical day where you walk into a casting room and the stars align and you're just like, perfect. Yeah, and it will happen. I absolutely have faith that it will happen. I suppose after like 20 years, 25 years, if it doesn't happen, you may want to, you want to be like Connecticut property again, but. Exactly. Well, I'm really excited about this. and I think we're going to let you introduce it.
Sure.
Talk to us about your performance that you're about to give us.
Yeah, so this performance, this is a song from a show that has a very special place in my heart, Sammy's heart as well. The show is Tuck Everlasting, the musical, and we're going to sing The Wheel, which is a lovely song. It's written by Chris Miller, lyrics by Nathan Tyson, and it's a great story. The musical is based on the novel about a family who, through circumstance or happenstance, discovers a brook that after they drink the water, they end up living forever. And it follows their lives over the course of a century or 2 centuries, however long, and all the people they meet along the way, including this one girl, Winnie Foster, who is the central character. And but it's one of those shows also that, a few years ago, Westfield did a production of it, which was lovely. And Sammy and I had a chance to do it, and it didn't work out. And then, of course, for her, age-wise, it was so appropriate for her back then, the role of Winnie. And for me, I'm a dad. I can play a dad, so the role of Angus Tuck is great for me. But it was one of those shows that fit well at the time. We loved the music. We loved the story. So, yeah, we figured, we'd get to sing it together at least once.
Well, I am so excited for this. Here is Gene and Sammy Choquette singing from Tuck Everlasting.
I bet you didn't know that the sun took a shine to water. She drinks up a bit, floats it up to the sky. Now what she takes from our lake will make her a storm cloud that rumbles and tumbles rain from up high, high, high. It's a wheel, Winnie, this journey of ours. Sun to lake to cloud that showers rain back to the lake below. And you'll find that wheel wherever you go. Not a minute or moment's the same. The wheel keeps you guessing. Everything around you goes along for the ride. The pond, the bullfrogs, the birch trees and hound dogs, plus people, all people ebb and flow with the tide, tide, tide. It's a wheel, Winnie, a ripple in water. Girl to wife, to mother, to daughter, like all your kinfolk. Come and gone, can't stop rowing, growing, changing and moving on. Once you drop an anchor, a boat gets stuck, and it will stay forever, just floating on top. Watching life pass you by, just floating on top. Show me how to climb back on the wheel. I'll be there, slick as a slingshot, prepared to get off at the end and share with someone my spot. You can't have living without dying. You can't call this living what we've got. We just are, we just be. No before, no beyond. A rowboat anchored in the middle of a pond. Don't be afraid of dying, Winnie. Be afraid of not truly being alive. You don't need to live forever. You just need to live. You understand?
It's a wheel.
It's a wheel, Winnie,
A
ripple in water. mother to daughter, like all your kinfolk. Come and gone. It's a wheel, Winnie, a circle in motion. Can't stop rowing, growing, changing and moving on. Can't stop rowing, growing, changing and moving on.
That was so heartwarming. I have never heard that song. It was,
Oh, really?
No, I've actually never seen that show. I've never heard the song. I've never heard the music to it. It was like one of the only shows I haven't seen on Broadway in the past like 10
Well, it was on Broadway very quickly. It did
Yeah.
not get a fair shake. It was in development for years, a decade, and it finally made Broadway and like closed. I don't know. It was crazy quick.
Well,
Just bad timing, but yeah.
that was beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
The end was just so sweet. So the next question I have, I think this is going to appeal to both of the things that I have seen you do, and that's directing and acting. And I'm actually learning from people as we go through this and go through this question as well. So this excites me. It is, what is your creative process as a director, but also what's your creative process as an actor?
Okay. The creative process as a director, I've only directed one show. Hopefully soon more coming. Like anything else, it's like the advice that I got from a mentor of mine in the directing field, he said, casting is 99% of your battle. And if you cast the show well, it kind of runs on its own, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's like you can pretty much do whatever you want, throw in whatever you want, they'll handle it, you know. So casting is, you know, the big, huge deal for me. And then it's basically, I like to go in kind of like an open canvas. I want to, you know, you have to know the story, you have to know the characters, and certainly have an idea of them. Have an idea of the overall surrounding story and theme as you see it, because that way you can kind of pull people back and push them forward to kind of make sure that their interpretations of the character kind of fit your story and how you see the story. But remain an open canvas, you know. Tell everybody, I like actors that, you know, thinking actors, come in with a thought, come in with an idea. I'm not going to tell you where to stand. This is where you enter. This is where you exit. Everything you do in between, it's up to you. Give it a shot. And then you see what they bring to it. And then you can say, that's great. Let's keep that. Let's elevate that. Or wow, what were you thinking? That sucked. Don't ever do that again. You will never work in the theater again. Done. Let's move on to something else. But you know, and again, I have one show. But luckily, I was blessed with a very, very talented cast, and everything I threw out there, they just did with smile. We had a great time. It was fun.
What show was that?
It was, believe it or not, The Music Man, which was the first musical I did that made me think that maybe I would want to do this. It was a whole
full circle.
And it was very emotional. I wept a lot. And opening night, I was a mess. I was, you know, with my wine and Xanax in the back row, just do it, you know. No notes tonight.
So familiar. Oh man. What's your creative process now as an actor? Because I know from working with you that you came into your audition and were like, choices were made and lines were memorized. And I was just like, what? So what is your process?
Yeah, you use the word choices, which is great. We'll get to that in a moment. Cut me off at any time. I can just talk about this all day. But no, I mean, really and truly, so, you know, I learned a lot of things. So again, studying acting in New York, I studied NYU and I studied at Circle in the Square Theater School. which is a bit of a classical training program, but also, different genres. But I studied, I studied different techniques over the years. So, Sanford Meisner, and I studied like early Stanislavski, like method, early Stanislavski. And then I also, was exposed to the practical aesthetics workshop. David Mamet was just starting that up. They were just starting the Atlantic Theater Company up in New York, and that's now part of Atlantic Theater Company. But, the very first classes were there. And so, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Felicity Huffman and all these great actors, from that program. And so somewhere along the line, I just kind of blended a bunch of these things together, the things that worked for me, that made sense. A lot of times, especially like in community theater, we don't have long rehearsal processes, and you kind of have to get things moving. You want to be off book, you want to get things moving. And so I'll look at a character. Again, first thing, working with, Mamet and Practical Aesthetics Workshop, you have to be devoted to the playwright. We are interpreting characters that were developed by somebody else, were invented by someone else. And so be honest to the playwright and look for the truth in the text. I say that all the time. Look for the truth in the text. Are there little tidbits about, he moves this way, or he sighs, or he breathes, or he, whatever. Sometimes you get a lot of those. Sometimes you get nothing. So you use those, right, for mannerisms. It's starting to build what I call the minutia, which takes the character off the page and makes the character human. Again, kind of like Shaylin said in her interview, which was great, by the way. I love Shaylin so much.
Thank you.
She said you have to, that you start making choices, right? You start making choices like, what would this character do? Well, if it was me, if I was thinking hard, I might, like bite a nail, or maybe scratch my beard, or so you start developing mannerisms. And again, the minutia, whatever the business is, you just need to make sure that it's consistent and it's repeatable, because you don't want to make a choice or do an action that's going to kill you. You can only do it once, and then you're dead, and you can't do it again for the rest of the night or for the rest of the run. So not a lot of yelling, but you just have to make sure they're smart choices and purposeful. And then you look to the director to say, great, love it, keep going, or no.
Let's alter it a little bit.
Or let's, what were you thinking? That was stupid. You're thinking stupid now. Like you, Eddie. God, you called me stupid so many times. Just kidding. Just JK, never once.
I love choices, especially large choices. No, I love that. I love that it is true. It's finding those little nuances in a character that I think take a character from being very one-dimensional to being a fully realized person.
Absolutely. The script is, it's kind of like, it's like a blueprint, right? So, you do have to say the words, and you want to be honest to the words and honest to the playwright. But that doesn't mean you can't make other sounds,
True.
or expound on some of the dialogue. Again, as long as it makes sense to the director, as long as it you're not violating, anything major copyright violation or whatever. I always, like you said, make a bold choice. And I tell the kids to do that all the time. Make a bold choice. The director will tell you if it's too much, but chances are it's probably not going to be.
And the director can tell you it's easier to pull someone back than to ask for more.
As a director, I would much rather say, wow, that's too much, than to say, oh, I need more. Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. So now a fun question. What is your favorite song to sing in the shower?
That's, well, I have to be honest. Right now, I'm singing through a medley of songs from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's that musical. I'm a bit obsessed with that musical at the moment. So I'm singing Out There, and I'm singing Hellfire. And again, I'm planning a one-man version of that show, hopefully sometime in the fall of 2022.
So this is in fall of 2022. So spring 2022 will be your one-man show of Jesus Christ Superstar.
I'd like to do them in repertory. That would
so
be
versatile.
In my backyard. Actually, if anybody wants to just come, you can just sit in the backyard.
All right. So,
but yes, that's yes, lots of songs from The Hunchback at the moment.
I mean,
it's great. I think it's Alan Menken's best work. Stephen Schwartz did the lyrics. I mean, my God, what a team! It's just lovely. and
So,
majestic and grand and all that.
so one last like fun question, and that's give me like just throw at me like 2 roles that you still want to play. And you've told me you only directed 1 show, but
Yeah.
what are 2 shows that you want to direct?
2 shows that I want to direct. I would love to direct the musical Heathers.
Okay.
I think it is ballsy. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say that? Sorry. Betsy. It's hip. It's fun. It's got great roles for great talented singers, and you can just have a lot of fun with it. It's one of the few that struck me of the later modern musicals. And I'd love to direct. I was going to say Mean Girls, which is basically Heathers without murder.
True.
But I would love to direct Mean Girls as well. Again, same kind of genre, same kind of storyline, kind of sort of. But other than that, I would love to direct a production of Jesus Christ Superstar, only because that show's been with me for 40, almost 50 years. And I know every word and every note of that song blindfolded. I still do. I got to do it with Exit 7 a few years ago, and
yeah, I saw that.
played pilot, and that was like, oof, what a homecoming.
Where I first met you.
That's right, because you assisted with Melissa with the choreography.
With one song, yeah. I just came in.
You were still in Florida then, right? So
was I in Florida? What year was that?
Disney thing?
What year was that?
Couldn't tell you, man. Too many
It was
drugs.
either New York, Boston, or Florida, because that's where I've been for the past 15, 16 years.
Right.
And what are 2 roles you want to play?
Yeah, sure. A lot of the roles I want to play, I'm aging out of, man, because there's just so many days, and so many people are so talented. But I would love to play Sweeney Todd someday. Just one of my favorite musicals of all time.
Same.
And I would love to play, and again, I don't even know that I could do this. I would love to play El Gallo in the Fantastics. I would love to play, Barnum.
Okay.
Those are just great roles, and I just have always, and I've loved them for so long, and yeah. So, but I would play King Arthur in Spamalot again too. I love that role. I would do that one over and over and over again. There's very few that I would do over and over again, but I would do that one over again too.
Yeah, there's a few I would do over again, but not many.
Yeah, because there's so many other great things to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you to end the interview. I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask everybody at the end of every interview. And that is, what draws you to live theater, live performance?
2-part answer. Number 1, as an audience member, I am absolutely captivated by the entire experience from start to finish. I like getting into the theater early. As soon as the doors open, if I can, I like to be there. I like to sit. I like to just take in the ambiance of the room, kind of forget the day, and just hopefully you're looking at a set. I love transparent theater. I hate curtains. I hate wings. This is not magic. Let's get the actors out there and let's do it. So hopefully I'm looking at some set, or trying to imagine, looking around the create. And then I also, I love, as a director, I love looking at a show from the technical side, the use of light, the use of scenery, the efficient use of scenery, the efficient use of actors, moving scenery, like all that stuff. I love watching that. I love Music Man. Everything was in the blues. We never went to black, hardly ever. And people love that. Same thing with Anne Frank. People loved watching the inter-scene exchanges. So yeah, and just being immersed in it, and then of course the story and the music and all that stuff. So I love it. And the second part to that question is, as an actor, we're on the different side of the stage now. The thing that I love the most, and this is true whether it's professional, New York regional, community theater, high school, wherever your venue is, every time you do a show, your extended family grows.
It's true.
And sometimes, you get along better with some family members than you do with other family members, but
True.
I found in my experience over the last, 10 years, especially, I have so many friends now, and sometimes you see them right away and you might see them at another audition. You might work with them. Some people I've worked with many times. Other people I haven't seen ever, hardly ever. But yet when you do see that person, it's always with a hug, and it's always with a, how you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, I haven't seen you in 4 years, but it's just like your family, you know, and once you make that bond, I love that. I love that part of being in shows, of course, the performing and all that stuff. But that to me is, you know, and as a director, giving that experience to my actors, you know,
Oh, yeah.
just creating a good time, you know. So for the audience, yes, but it's also about the people in the show. And I love that.
Gene, you're amazing.
Ah,
I love working with you. I love watching you on
same here, Eddie.
stage. And I really loved talking to you. It's just so insightful, and to hear your story it was just so wonderful. Your song was amazing. So I thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure.
And entertaining and enlightening our audience and myself.
My absolute pleasure. I was honored to be asked. This is a great thing that we're doing, Eddie, and you're one of the better groups in our area now. So yes, I'm very honored, and I thank you for asking me.
Well, thank you so much, Gene. You have a great evening.
You as well. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Gene Choquette, everybody. He is just such a genuine person, and I love that man. So, well, thank you again for sharing your evening with us. Really quickly, just a couple things, just to repeat. If you are so inclined to help K&E Theater Group out through these difficult times, in the comments section below, if you're on Facebook, there is a PayPal link. Click on that. You can donate to us, whatever you'd like. If you're not on Facebook and you're on IGTV right now, or the YouTube channel, or you are on Facebook and you just want to donate later, you can go to ketg.org. You can sign up for our newsletter, and you can click on Support KETG in order to donate there. Please come back and see us again for our next show. We're so excited. We have a huge lineup coming up of people from all over this area, and I am so excited to get them on this show and to learn more about them. So thank you once again for supporting K&E Theater Group. Have a great night, everybody.